Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Well, back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we are going back in time to review Hannibal Season 1, Episode 10, Buffet Froid. It's not how you think it is. It's cold cuts. It's not you're eating Freuds. That would be weird.
It's anal retentive food.
I like that. Well, let's find out who is joining us tonight, starting off with award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
Yeah. Wearing another Hannibal shirt. We'll see I run out and have to do laundry.
The Fannibal among Fannibals.
I know. I'm excited. Always excited. And this is a nice, creepy episode.
Yeah.
This one actually has a pretty freaky moment. Anytime you do a slow roll looking under a bed.
I know. It's like the monster under the bed thing, and we have that a few places. And I actually jumped in one place, and I was like, "What?" And then I was creeped out in another one. I was like, "Yeah, I like this episode a lot."
So did Will.
Yeah.
All right. Also joining us is podcasting rock star and international cosplay queen Vanessa Thompson.
What's up, guys? Can I help put a little smile on your face?
Oh, nice. We don't get any. We don't get any bloom tonight, do we?
No, Alana. That's okay though. We got enough to keep us entertained in this episode.
I don't know if I like being bloom free.
I know.
Well, it happens. They can't. I mean, Chilton hasn't been in an episode in a while, and I'm really missing him.
I know.
Although
we're not getting enough Chilton.
Although initially the whole clock thing was supposed to be Chilton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was supposed to do that analysis of him.
He was supposed to be the one that discovered it, not me. Okay. It's kind of weird when you look back, in memory, you think like he was, once he got introduced, he was like there all the time, but no, there's like a big break. It's really, really strange. All right. So what are we talking about tonight? There's a gruesome picture. This is episode 10, Buffet Froid. It was May 30th, 2013, directed by John Dahl. Writer Andrew Black and Chris Brancato. Of course, it's created by Brian Fuller based on the characters from the book Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. We have guest star John Benjamin Hickey plays Dr. Sutcliffe. This is a one and done for him. He doesn't do too well. But the synopsis goes, Beth LeBeau is found murdered, having drowned in her own blood. Oh, man. As a result of her face being cut into a Glasgow smile. Graham's mental state continues to sharply decline. He loses hours at a time, and when a vivid hallucination causes Graham to contaminate the crime scene, Lecter refers to him to a neurologist, an old residency good gosh, colleague, Dr. Sutcliffe. Why was I getting that backwards? I don't know. But there's the smile there. Oh my. That was actually really gruesome. This had some gruesome stuff in it. It had some scary stuff. It had some scary concepts. And then, of course, you got Hannibal just manipulating the hell out of everybody. And you get a surprise at the end where Hannibal's doing something we may not have suspected, but we should have known all along. Right? Oh, my goodness. Yeah. All right, let's find out what we thought. Vanessa, you're up first because, well, this is new for you. Christopher and I, along with Dave Dreher and Thomas Marini, of course, covered Hannibal with the Hannibal Fan Podcast back in 2014 and 2015 when we did seasons 2 and seasons 3. So this is a first review for us, but of course, it's not our first viewing. So I'm really eager to find out what your first impression of Buffet Froid was.
This episode was intense, especially in relation to Will Graham, right? A lot of the time, he comes off as a huge spoiled brat. Like, he's just having tantrum after tantrum. And, as the episode proceeds, we understand some things that may be causing that. So you do feel for him. But I was so annoyed by Will Graham in this episode. He got on my nerves with all his whining.
So was Jack Crawford.
Yeah, Jack, and he's although I do one of my favorite lines is when he's like, I'm not sand, I'm bedrock. I thought that was great. I really liked that. And I really liked our kind of, I hate to say it this way, but our killer of the week that we got, Georgia Madge.
Georgia,
yeah, I really liked the story about her, the way they weave that in with Will Graham's kind of mental deterioration, and the way that we really see how cruel Hannibal can be. Just, we think we've seen new levels of just how cold he can be, but in this episode in particular, you really see how just detrimentally cruel he can be.
Man, he is pushing all the buttons
Mm-hmm.
up to the very end.
But he still looks good while he's doing it.
Well, there you go. There you go. Face or no face. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next, sir. What is your first impression, or in this case, second impression of Buffet 4?
Well, I didn't remember parts of it since the last time I've seen it, but I love this episode mainly because they do a really great job of like creating some creepy elements in it, especially with the creepy girl character, which actually was in Brian Fuller's other series he did, Dead Like Me, and she's almost like a reverse of her character who helped the dead move on. And in this one, she feels like she's dead. So I found that to be very interesting. And actually, did you know that the originally this episode, the killer was supposed to be like a Saw-like killer?
No.
That was supposed to like kill people involving like charities,
charities.
Yeah, dealing like cheating charities or something like that. And so that the way that he would kill them would be, like if they're into dog charities, he would do a thing where they would be eaten by dogs or something like that. So I'm glad that they kind of went away from that and did something a little bit different, because this is definitely a little bit different than what we've been dealing with. And again, it's another way of sort of like, I love it when they can sort of tie in whatever the crime has happened with Will and what he's going through, to where he's dealing, with his mental illness. And you also have that sort of creepy vision of what Hannibal would look like if you couldn't see his face.
Man. Yeah. In his little plastic suit.
Yeah.
I love his tailored clear suit.
Well, yeah. Like, if Hannibal's going to be in a plastic suit, he's going to look fashionable while doing it, right? I mean, come on. And that, of course, I feel like that's a big nod to American Psycho. But and every episode usually has some kind of nod to something. And we also get one line that sort of ties into Silence of the Lambs. You guys know what that was?
Which one?
When when Hannibal is talking to the doctor, he's talking about he could smell the encephalitis.
Ooh.
And the guy was like, something about like to the effect of, well, I know that you could always sniff out the nurse's perfume, but when did you move on to the being able to sniff this thing? So which is basically a reference to Silence of the Lambs when he smells the smell of Jodie Foster's Clarice Starling. It's like, you smell like eau de tante, but not today, or something like that effect. But yeah, another great episode. Another one where we sort of get more into Will Graham's descent into madness, and now we find out that it is a medical issue. That Hannibal, being the jerk that he is, even though he could be very stylish and make really great food, he's basically treating Hannibal like his own little guinea pig.
Yeah.
Will Graham, yeah.
He's treating Will Graham like that, to where it's like, he knows he's like got an inflamed half of his brain, encephalitis, which, I'm wondering if maybe that might be from drugs. Maybe he might have incited it. And then, and then some, and of course, when he gets that doctor to sort of make that deal with him, you kind of wonder if this guy is going to be living very long.
No, you kind of wonder.
Well, yeah, and of course,
Can't make
Hannibal.
deals with Hannibal.
Well, that and the Hannibal makes a really sort of in joke later on where he's like, let's hope she doesn't remember. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this
Right
girl
before the big reveal.
might not live long on this earth either. So yeah, it's a really wonderful episode that to where you sort of get in the mindset of Will Graham as well. You can see that he's really sort of dealing with these things because he's putting himself so much into these crimes, and he messed up a freaking crime scene for the first time where he gets all confused. But yeah, there's moments where you see that little creepy woman peeking up from the bed or looking in through your window.
Didn't that feel a little Sam Raimi-ish to you? Like the design of her and the different ways that she acted, especially when I saw her under the bed reaching out.
Well, yeah, I could definitely see that because I think
inspiration-wise,
with her emaciated and she's got like these contact lenses or whatever they put on her.
Yeah,
makes her eyes almost like very demonish,
sunken in kind of.
So I love how they can sort of use that as a way to make him think that am I seeing this or if this is real? And then you find out, okay, she is a real person. And in some ways that also with her realizing she herself is real. And at the same time, Will Graham is realizing, well, maybe I'm not as crazy as I think I am. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful episode that sort of like moves the plot along to where we see that Will Graham is, being manipulated by Hannibal, and then Hannibal at the same time, you get to see that he's trying to, he's playing that game even worse, and it gets caught in the middle of doing that, So yeah. I mean, it's like as much as we kind of, Hannibal is the villain that we love to hate. And this one,
absolutely,
this one you get to hate him even more. It's like, why are you doing this? Because you feel so bad for Will, because Will just wants to feel sane for once, and Hannibal is just like fucking him over more and more.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, there's a lot about this episode that I had forgotten. The whole intro, I totally slipped my mind. I did not remember that at all. I do remember. The girl and she ends up in the glass casket. So I remember that. And I do remember the clock. Now the clock thing is a big deal because that became a huge kind of turning point with what is going on with Will. I remember that clearly. And, it's there's some stuff happening with that in the next few episodes and with that glass casket that I remember. I was like, is that going to happen this time? No. Not this time. So we'll see what happens on episode 11 with that. Because if she remembers anything of what the final stinger gave us, there's no way Hannibal is going to let that lady survive, which is sad because she went through a lot. Speaking of her, I really appreciated the whole moment under Will's bed. For a lot of reasons. One, it was actually creepy. It actually had me on the edge of my seat. Two, Will jumped out of his skin. That was awesome. And then it had a very touching moment, because he knew that she didn't even believe that she was alive. She thought she was dead. And the only reason she hasn't killed him, or the reason why she's following him, is because he basically announced that she was alive. So she, is wanting to figure that out, which is a great story element and a great character development for a character that's basically a guest character for one or two episodes. And the way he reached out to her at that moment, I mean, just the physical language of it, even the way he landed on almost like a cat, right on his all fours, and was looking under there, and it was really a creepy but beautiful moment. And I really liked it. This episode really won me over, and then of course it ends on a note that makes you kind of creeps you out more than anything else in the past 50 some minutes. In 1 minute they make your skin crawl. And
the next minute they make your skin crawl right off your body.
For her. That was actually because I remember like, what is going on when he grabs her arm when she
Yeah.
runs out and he's left holding a sleeve, right? Basically a skin sleeve. It's
Yeah.
like, what is that? And it's there's a lot going on with this episode, and the effects for the 2 deaths that we get
brutal.
are really, really disgusting. Now they're not as creative, although they kind of are, but they're not as creative as some of the others, like like the cello guy that we got a couple episodes back, or the wings. There's not like that. It's more straight up brutal, but at the same time it's not just right. There's a little bit more to it. They have to take it and push it just a little bit further. And so while the killing, what's interesting is that most episodes it's the invented death, right, that you remember months, years down the line. This one is the clock. When he draws the clock and it's all out of whack, I was like, what is going on? I remember watching it for the first time and I had no idea. That was the first time I ever got introduced to that concept. And it was like, man, it made such a lasting impression that that's what stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also become a very popular image with all the artwork and stuff. I think even someone actually made a clock.
Nice.
Oh no, that would be horrible.
I'm not sure how you could tell time with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting episode, and although I was thinking like, how in the world did she sneak by all them damn dogs?
Right.
Yeah, because that's a lot of dogs.
Unless they weren't afraid of her.
Yeah.
Yes, so. But because you think their sense of smell would probably smell some weird dying woman. But
it was kind of creepy that the reason why she didn't leave any blood samples under the fingernails of the girls.
Yeah, because she had no blood flow.
Yeah. Although there is that I love the cool shot where in the opening where she goes looking up in the attic, and there's that hole, and the camera moves.
Oh yeah.
Past the hole, and you see footprints, and you're like, things are not looking good for this lady.
No, you just don't know where, right? You don't know why. So it's true. It's like a horror film, straight out of a horror film. Creepy stuff.
It was good.
I guess the other moments are really between Will and Jack, right? Because Jack's realizing that maybe he's pushing him too far. He's starting to kind of, what he says, he's officially concerned. Finally, he's officially concerned.
Yeah.
Because he made the comment that he sent him to Hannibal because he was unofficially concerned. Now he's officially concerned. I thought that was funny.
Well, especially when he compares it to Miriam Lass, and he doesn't want to end up having a similar scenario happening with him, like with her, which we still, I don't think we still haven't found out exactly what happened to her yet, right?
Not yet.
But we will. But yeah, and he realizes because he allowed, like he mentioned, he allowed Miriam Lass to do a lot of sort of legal type stuff and not really follow the rules, and then, but at the same time, it's like this is a even more crazy thing because that was more her just investigating, and this one is at what point do you push? I think, who was it? I love the scene between him and what's her name from the lab?
Beverly,
where she was like that. They feel like the rumors are that they feel like that Jack has sort of pushed him to the edge, and that he's the one that's like taking it over the edge.
Yeah, doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah,
that was such a tender moment between them too, and shows how their relationship is growing.
Well, you can sort of see that he has a little bit of trust in her, that she's going to tell him
straight
what he wants to hear.
Yeah,
because everybody else is sort of like tiptoeing around it or not wanting to deal with it, whether it's Jack, or even Hannibal to some degree. And so Beverly's the one that's a straight shooter. It's like, I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah. Was that a call out to the season finale, or is that just coincidence?
Man.
What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking
about. You don't know yet because you haven't seen the season finale.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You can't. I can't tell you. I also like the line. I think it was Hannibal that said it. He goes when he and Jack were having the conversation about putting him into the middle of everything. He said the very air has screams smeared on it. That's the kind of dialogue you get in the show. That's great. That's a great line.
How do you? This one had some good ones.
How do you come up with that? That's a great
good writing.
Well, and some of some of the writing and stuff is like straight out of the Red Dragon stuff, because there's also a line that Will talks about like roller coaster cogs, so some of that stuff is definitely inspired by the book, and other things are just like Brian Fuller or the writers, coming up with these really witty, scenes or sayings that you always come away remembering, or like, oh wow. I know for me, I'm like, man, I wish I could write dialogue like that.
It's just kind of, now going back to Beverly real quick. He reveals that he can't remember some things, and she kind of has that look on her face, like she might be onto something. Is she, Christopher? Is she onto something? Vanessa, do you think she's onto something?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I think right now she may think something he's deteriorating in a way that he doesn't understand or realize. I don't know if she's on to any clues just yet, though.
Yeah, because out of the bat, she's the smartest one.
Yeah.
Well, and her smarts. Well, I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, her smarts sort of.
It does come back together.
Yeah, if you become the smartest person in the room, that's when Hannibal cuts you down to size. And oh god, that's really bad. I didn't even mean to.
That's a really bad pun there.
I didn't even make that to be a foreshadowing pun, but I like it. But although I will say, my favorite line is where what was it? When Will meets with Dr. Sutcliffe and Hannibal, and he's like, "You're in very good hands. Dr. Lecter here is one of the sanest men I know." And,
oh yeah,
and Lecter's like, "I agree," or something like that. I'm like, if you only knew.
Yeah, you only know how psychotic he is.
I kind of think maybe he did, but maybe not the full extent.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
He knows that he has questionable medical.
He definitely didn't want to
disagree
with him, right? He definitely didn't want to.
Yeah.
Say no.
She probably should have anyways. It's gonna die anyways.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. We're going to give our final thought. We're going to give a score 1 to 5. And this is the best part. We're going to give a favorite scene. There's quite a few in here that we can choose from. If you're listening in, thank you so much for sticking around. Stick around for that as well. But if you're enjoying this, subscribe down below, hit the like button, hit the bell so you can be notified, and leave us some comments. What do you think of us revisiting the show? Are you revisiting it too along with us, or are you watching it for the first time? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, please do. If you don't, we'll send Doc to sit under your bed and scare you.
And that would scare you to see.
You know what would really scare you? The snoring.
TMI.
You got a lot of explaining to do now.
You know from experience.
Oh, I know.
We've all shared a room. We know each other very personally.
Thank you for just spreading that out to everybody. All right, let's find out what all this is. And Vanessa, you're up first.
Me first. I really enjoyed this episode. There's a lot of things about it that furthered the story. We had a really interesting killer and kills that we got in this, really gruesome. And I think, we're talking about how they weren't necessarily as creative as some of the others, but I think to balance that out, they really put it in your face. They really spend time showing you. Yeah, they put it in your face for real. They took time. You got into these, gruesome you know, it's just all near decapitations. And that's kind of cool to get a better look at things like that. Especially if you're into the more special effects side, the gruesome side, I cannot shy away from an exploding bloody head or a nearly decapitated head. I don't know what it is about decapitations that just does it for me. But I really enjoyed this episode, and I enjoyed our revelation as to what is going on with Will Graham. We finally have an answer, even though he doesn't yet. So with that, I'm going to give this one a solid 4, because I think it's a really creative. It has a really great visuals in it. So it's high up there for me, but I still think there are some that we've seen that are just like perfect. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 4. And my favorite scene, I'm so torn because there's 2 moments in this that are just like, wow. If we'll just say if this one's not picked by the end, then I'll mention it. But my favorite scene is going to be the revelation that Will has encephalitis, and that Hannibal's kind of been onto it for a while, because that is so incredibly messed up. It's so cold and manipulative, and just so you cannot understand how Hannibal could care for him, but yet in his own way, he cares so much for Will, even to put him through this. Just watch his mind melt, basically. And it's just so heartbreaking to watch Will go through his transformations. And kudos to this, I can't remember his name, the actor's name that plays Will Graham, but he is Hugh Dancy. Yeah, he is working it, isn't he? Yes. You feel what he is going through. You believe that he is Will Graham with all the psychosis and whatnot. So yeah, that was a really left a lasting impression for me.
Yeah, I noticed for the first time that when he's talking to other characters, he avoids eye contact a lot.
Will?
Yeah. Which I find interesting. Christopher G. Moore, Fannibal among Fannibals. Give it to us, buddy. Give it to us.
Well, if you remember when we first talked about in the first episode, he definitely has a lot of mental issues, and a lot of anxiety issues, and that's why he would sometimes wear glasses, because they were more like for seeing far out or whatever. And so, so he definitely doesn't want to look people in the eyes. That's why a lot of times he'd move his glasses down and not look at people. So, but yeah, I think people are always sort of focusing more on the Hannibal character, but I think Hugh Dancy is really one of the big standouts of this whole series, because he's got to show a lot of these sort of fractured moments in his psyche, and like that part where he's just like, where he's freaking out, like he thinks he's killed that girl, and it's just him just recreating the scene in his mind. And I think because he's in sort of having these sort of blackouts where he's like, and he's messed up a crime scene in the midst of it. So yeah, I think he's definitely getting more and more fractured, and Hannibal's just helping that fracture to open up more and more. He's basically the fracking Will's mind,
Ooh, yes.
causing more earthquakes in his mentality. But yeah, I think this is another great episode. And I think for me, this is a standout just in creating sort of creepy atmosphere.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Because there's definitely several moments, whether it's that opening scene, which feels like a beginning of a horror film. There's that moment again where he goes back into the house.
Yes.
And then just even that moment where she shows up underneath his bed, or when she's looking in through the window while he's freaking sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see her like half of her face. It's like, and the whole time I'm like, dude, get some curtains so people don't look at your house while you're sleeping. But yeah, I think it's got some nice moments, dialogue moments between Will and Hannibal. But yeah, I think overall it's a nice episode. There are moments where it kind of gets slow at parts, but it's still it's still an episode that sort of moves the plot along and really moves the arc of these characters as we see sort of Will being manipulated by Hannibal, which, is going to continue throughout this whole series. So as for a rating, I guess I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. But I think definitely the standout part of this is the creepiness, and even though the crime isn't as like spectacular as some of the stuff we've seen, it's still a pretty gruesome thing that you're kind of surprised that they show it so much. Like they used to show it on NBC. I mean, the part where he sees himself under the bed and he's looking over, he's almost looking like charmingly at this ripped open head, and it's really creepy. It's almost like a visual, like a live action version of Pac-Man. If somebody ripped your head open that way. But as for favorite scene, I guess for me, it's when he goes back into that house again.
Oh, yes.
And he shines that light underneath the bed, and it's like, it is a freaking creepy moment when you see the little face peering back at him. That's just as creepy as any horror film, I think. Yep. And I think there's some really nice moments like that. I think the first opening scene made me jump when that hand comes out from under the bed. And then I love that moment, the visual shot of seeing that hole in the roof moving. But anyway, yeah, that's my favorite scene. Is that because that gave me chills watching it again.
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, they do that under the bed thing 3 times, and three
times, and it works every time. That just shows you're doing a freaking good job, right?
Yeah. This is a good episode. Interestingly enough, like I said earlier, what I remember is the diagnosis with the clock. That was such a big part of the series. A turning point in Will's progression. Even though Will doesn't know it yet, Hannibal does, and so do we as the audience, and maybe some other characters are starting to suspect. But it's there's a lot going on with this one, and what they. I said earlier that the kills themselves weren't really that creative comparatively, right? I mean, by itself it is, but what they make up for that is really creative murderer, because it's not a serial killer. There's a reason behind this particular killing, and it has nothing to do with being a serial killer. It's a mental illness and all this stuff that goes with it, and so it's a lot more depth to it, and a lot more to understand, and even to the point where, all the other ones, they've either shot or they end up dying or they kill themselves, right? And this one, they put her in a glass cage to try to save her, right? Because she's so deteriorated, to help her revive. Mainly, I suspect, because they want to question her, but they're also, know that it's a mental issue, not a murderous issue. So I give this one a 4.25. I'll go right in between the two. You guys, 4.25. And my favorite scene, you guys picked my favorite scenes 1 and 2, so I'll go with my third favorite scene, and that's going to be the reveal about who the actual killer of Dr. Sutcliffe. So yeah, him is, and talk about. We get a lot of gore with that, and audibly. There's a crack pop.
Yeah.
That was like, oh my, that's gnarly.
And a tailored plastic suit.
Well, that and you also get that Jacob's Ladder moment of that weird face.
That's true. That's true.
What a brutal moment.
Do we get that again? I feel like that we're not done with that yet. I don't remember.
She still has that actually is an actual thing that people have
where
they can't recognize faces, and so that's basically what they would see, which that's a horrific way to live, I think, if everybody's face it looks all jumbly. But I think the way they did it, it had like almost like skull teeth mark. I mean, it was like weird where you couldn't see a face, but you could see the little semblance of it, and it made it even creepier.
It did. It did. All right, so we are 10 episodes in, and we have 3 episodes left this season. So I kind of suspect a lot of the stuff we remember is actually going to be next season because they can't put it all into the next 3 episodes.
Into the last 3 episodes.
Or can they? Oh my gosh. All right. So if you've listened to all this, man, thank you for checking us out and hanging out this long. I hope you come back next week for the next episode. Vanessa, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was a fun discussion.
Always a pleasure. Becoming more and more of a fanable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what you need to be. That's the cool place to be. Be a fanable. Yeah,
you know,
I always love talking about it.
You know what I thought was interesting too? When they come across our first murder victim, they're like he, referring to the killer as a he the entire time until it's finally revealed that it's a woman. Yeah. So I thought that's pretty interesting how they
even will
type, type out their killers.
Yeah, and be sure you join us next week to find out what shirt Christopher wears.
Yes.
Christopher wears.
What is it, Lassie? Christopher's in a well?
Hope not.
Put the lotion on the skin.
Oh, nice time.
No. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.